Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It is time to talk again about Voracek. The second time, he's the first player to feature on two Bust Watches. It's time to do a part two because unfortunately, he has not really gotten better. So let's revisit really quick what I had said in the old Bust Watch about Jakub Voracek and see what I had said. And let's talk about that. And then after that, let's talk about what it's looking like now and see if my advice has changed going forward. I'm going to say hold. I'm going to say be patient, 100%. But with the caveat and the big but of probably in like 2 weeks, once there's been like 10 games under Voracek's belt, that's when you want to dig in again to these same things and look at who the line mates are. Now, what is his shot production, and have his minutes continue to go down or stay low? So last time when we talked about Voracek, one of the things that I had said was you needed to watch for two things on Voracek, two very important things. One was shot production, and two was ice time. Now, I had said that in that time when I made the video, it was too early to tell whether those two things were going to stick. I expected shot production to potentially go up because of his line mates, and I also expected ice time to come up at least to what it was last year. So keep in mind that those are the two qualifiers that I had said early on that would make him all of a sudden now droppable. So let's take a look and see if those two things have changed at all. When we talked about Voracek last time, he was mostly playing with Giroux. That's where he was mostly slotting into. And now if we take a look at where he's mostly playing with Couturier and Lindblom. And it's actually been a really, really productive line. From a production standpoint, they are extremely efficient. They control a huge amount of shot share, although that can largely be attributed to Sean Couturier being a very elite center. He's extremely, extremely good. Probably one of the best centers from an advanced stat standpoint. So it helps a lot for Voracek to be playing with a guy like Couturier, but that is the second line. And from a minute standpoint, they don't get that many. He's on technically the second power play with Sean Couturier, Oscar Lindblom, Sanheim, and Niskanen. And for the most part, they do get less time, but it's not that much less time. They do kind of run a 1A, 1B situation on the power play, mostly because neither one has really been getting it done on the power play. But nonetheless, the power play that Voracek is on with Couturier, Lindblom, Sanheim, and Niskanen is not better than the top power play. That's a worse power play. You'd like to see him on that top power play with JVR, Frost, Konechny, Giroux, and Provorov. But as it stands right now, Voracek is not there. So if you look at the last 3 game lines, you can see that 8% of the time has been Joel Farabee, Kevin Hayes, Scott Laughton. 16% of the time has been Voracek, Lindblom, Couturier, and 26% of the time has been Frost, Giroux, Konechny. Now, of all those lines, the one that is the best is the Couturier, Lindblom, Voracek line. They control 64.6% of Corsi 4. So they have controlled shot share. They've controlled shots. They are much better when that line is on the ice. The problem is that it's not necessarily because of Voracek. It's mostly because of Couturier. If you look at the line of Couturier, Farabee, and Lindblom, which is 6.1% of the frequency, that line controlled 66.7% of shot share. So they're good because of Couturier. That's really the message there. And then from a power play perspective, over the last 3 games, Voracek has featured 23% of the time on the power play, and it's that one of Couturier and Lindblom as the forwards, and then 25% to Niskanen and Sanheim, and those are the defensemen that are with Voracek there. Now, let's take a look again at the in-season tool here and take a look at the things that we had mentioned in the last show would be negative indicators. So first things first is time on ice. It's gone down again from last year, and it's still down. So over the whole season, it's sitting at 16 and a half minutes around is what Voracek's playing per game. If you look at the last 30 days, not much different. Look at the last 7 days, not much different. It's pretty much the same for Voracek no matter how you look at it. And so regardless, over the whole season, he's seen about a 12% reduction in ice time. That's not good. And a lot of that is coming from the power play in general. Last year, he played around 3 minutes on the power play. And this year, he's playing around 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes on the power play. So a lot has come from the power play in terms of actual minutes reduction. But a lot, too, has come from 5-on-5 deployment. Last year, he was mostly playing on the top line with Giroux. This year, he's playing with Couturier for the most part on the second line. So that's already a huge deterrent. And now it gets even worse when you dig into his shot pace. His shots at the moment over the season to season, are down 32%. But it gets worse as you go down the season and closer to now. So for the whole season, his shot pace is 150. Over the last 7 days, his shot pace is 82, and over the last 30 days, his shot pace is 137. So his shots continue to get worse. They're not getting better. They are continuously getting worse and worse. And the sad thing about this is that his shooting percentage is actually really good. So on the season, he has a 12% shooting percentage. Over the last 30 days, a 12% shooting percentage. Over the last 7 days, because he barely shot. So this is because he only has an 82 shot pace. So he only has 3 shots on goal over the last 3 games. He has a 33% shooting percentage. So it's high because he barely shot and he's a good shooter. But the thing is, and what's sad about Voracek is that when you reduce his shot totals as much as they are, it doesn't matter if his shooting percentage is good. There's just not going to be as many goals for him to get. And so Voracek is in this weird spot where, okay, he's playing well and shooting a lot, but he's not shooting enough for it to actually even matter. And his on-ice shooting percentage is rather low at 8%. It was 10% last year, but it's actually not that crazy considering the line he's on. It's a much different deployment. It's also, if you look at his deployment across the season, it's been all over the place. Sure, right now he's with Couturier and Lindblom, but he has been all over the place this year. There's not really been much consistency to who and where Voracek plays. And so when you look at it, I'm not surprised that he has an 8% on-ice shooting percentage. I'd expect it to be lower when he can't really develop chemistry with anyone. And even then, 8% is not terrible. I mean, if he got up to 9%, fine. It'd be a difference of only a few goals. And the sad thing there, too, similar to his shot percentage, is his IPP is high. His IPP on the season is at 78%. Over the last 30 days, his IPP is actually 91%. That's insanely good. And yet he only had 7 assists and was on a 55-point pace. So Voracek is in this weird spot, and his power play percentage has gone down as well, 15% from last season. So Voracek is just all around looking bad. Bad with inconsistent numbers. And that's kind of the nail in the coffin for me, for Voracek. I have him in a keeper league, and I'm holding him solely because I have 2 or 3 streamer spots really ahead of him that I can use. And so there's no point in dropping Voracek when you already have 2 or 3 streamer spots. You might as well just hold and see what happens. But at the moment, he's this close to getting dropped. The week that he gets benched a lot, that's it. I'm dropping him. Because the problem is he's not getting you shots, which means he's not going to get you as many goals. He's not getting great deployment from a minute standpoint, so there's not that many points in general for him to get involved in, and he's already involved in pretty much 91% of all the points that have happened on the ice with him over the last 30 days, and it's still not good enough. So what you're looking at with Voracek is a 55 to 60 point guy most likely. And honestly, there is a case, a very real case here with Voracek ends with just 50 points. He is a streamer, and a streamer is worth more than Voracek in virtually every league at this point. He's not getting you shots. He's not getting you hits or blocks. His points are mediocre and replaceable at this point from a fantasy perspective. I can't advocate holding him. In the deepest of leagues, probably. But again, remember, I think while he is droppable, I wouldn't necessarily drop him if you already have like 2 or 3 streamer spots. It's only when Voracek's starting to be benched a lot that he becomes now droppable. And even then, you might open up a spot, right, on a starting day. That might make it worth it as well. I'd say that probably at this point now, before it was a strong hold suggestion. Now it's a strong, you probably should drop suggestion. And it's unfortunate for Voracek. And the thing is that when I look at it, I don't really see paths to how he can really get better and be worth it unless his minutes go up. That's the only place. And even then, the lines are all over the place in terms of who's offensive, who's defensive. They're pretty evenly spread out under AV. And so it's not like if you upped his minutes by 2 minutes, I don't think you'd see that much of a difference. Maybe he becomes a 65-point guy, maybe. But right now, I just cannot advocate holding Voracek. It's tough to advocate. I think I'd try to sell him first, see if you can get anything for him. I think what I tell a lot of people, sometimes what people don't think of is when they try to trade a guy like Voracek, right? You try to trade him at his old value. Let's say you've gone through all the trades for Voracek, no one's biting. Okay, well now, how about you revisit it? Let's do it a different way. Assume you're about to drop Voracek, right? What you can do is instead of dropping, first send out a few trades where you would clearly be losing, right? So the person getting the trade would say, oh my God, I'm getting Voracek for this guy who I probably just picked up on waivers 2-3 weeks ago. I obviously should take that, right? But what you're getting out of that trade is you're getting someone who's above waiver level, right? So you're getting better than what you would have gotten if you dropped Voracek, and you're improving on that drop essentially. And I like doing that a lot of times when you have a drop guy. I think the mistake is a lot of people when they're about to drop someone. I think Carter Hutton is a good example, and I got a lot of trades for him. Right, is they take Hutton who's been playing really really well and they target Timo Myers and all these guys that are like someone's going to get the trade and say you're about to drop Hutton. Of course I'm not going to trade you this person for Hutton. And Voracek has even more name value than a Hutton example, right? But what ends up happening is you can get a pretty good player for Voracek if you're set on dropping, right? Um, and so that's what I would advocate if you're going to trade is aim a little bit above waiver and see if you can move him then. And then if you really can't move him, then drop. So that would be my order of operations there. But Voracek to me is very, very solidly in bust territory now. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next. There's a hot hands coming later today, so pay attention for that. We're going to cover the New York Islanders. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll catch you next time.